the venerable 35 Remington. This is a cartridge from the turn of the century. John Moses Browning designed cartridge, specifically made for this rifle here, the Remington auto-loading rifle. This is a Model 81. The first ones were Model 8s, right about 1908. The design from 1903, 1905. And John Browning, known for many rifles at this point, mostly lever guns and pistols, developed this semi-automatic called an auto-loading rifle, and it was developed along with cartridges for it, much like the 1911 was designed with the 45 ACP. This was designed with the 25, 30, and 35 Remington cartridges, and stripper clip fed, first commercially available semi-automatic rifle for a civilian. Realistically, one of the first auto-loading rifles at all. So my first little history with a little bit of nostalgia with this cartridge specifically. My first rifle was a lever gun in a 35 Remington, and I didn't really know what I was doing when I bought it, so obviously these things pack quite the wallop, but I kept all the brass from that, and after doing some research and finding out that it was a John Browning design, I am a bit of a nerd for John Browning. I went on a quest to find one of these, and it took me about 10 years to find a nice model. I mean, this thing has definitely been used, and it's got some nicks and dings in the wood and everything, but most of the bluing is still there. It's used, properly used. It shows its age, and for a gun that's, well, this is a 41, so this is about an 80-year-old rifle, but a design from the turn of the century. I think it's a good example. So what I'm doing here is we're trying to develop a nice hunting load that is somewhere around 2,000 feet per second, and that is fairly accurate. I'm going to tell you right now, open sights like this, these particular sights at 100 yards is really difficult. I've been messing around with different targets and everything, just to get a good sight picture. I mean, at an animal is a different animal, no pun intended, but at a target, it's difficult to get a good sight picture and really see what the capability of accuracy is. So may go down to 50 yards eventually and do development there to get a more accurate representation of what the gun's doing versus what I'm doing. But we're gonna do a little bit of reloading here. We're gonna load up some Hornady bullets and see what we can come up with. We'll get out and shoot it, and let's head down to the reloading room right now. Okay, 35 Remington. Turn of the century big game cartridge. I have not found a whole lot out there as far as reloading videos or information or different things on it. Obviously not a terribly popular cartridge at this point, but definitely still a valid cartridge. So still made. There's a few ammo, Hornady Lever Revolution, number of other different loadings that are out there. Been kind of hard to find since COVID, since the meltdown, and some of those odder cartridges haven't really come back, but have seen it recently. But anyways, so this brass is from my first deer rifle, and I saved the brass. I always liked the 35 Remington. I just wanted, after doing some research, to get it in the cartridge that it was originally designed for. So this is Hornady brass. It has been cleaned and annealed. We're starting cleaned and annealed. So the 35 Remington was a cartridge, once again, made for the Remington auto-loading rifle. Both the cartridge and the rifle were designed by John Moses Browning. We're just going to do 10 rounds today, because all we're trying to do is develop a cartridge with the 200 grain round nose Hornadys. It's an interlock bullet for deer hunting this season. So I'm just trying to achieve about 2,000 feet per second. So once again, this cartridge was touted when it came out. This was the first real semi-automatic rifle, center fire, hunting size cartridge type of rifle that was semi-automatic, and it was touted as a big game cartridge that would take down any big game in the world. And throughout that time, it was famously advertised by Remington to be going on the Teddy Roosevelt African expedition. What he used it for, whatever, I don't know, but as seen, Remington presented him with one before his trip and advertised him taking it with on his expedition. So, more famously, Hepburn's expedition, where he killed Cape Buffalo, lion, eland, number of different African big game with it. And he liked it for the fact that you could repeat. You had 5 shots of big medicine. So the cartridge resizes really easily. It's a very small shoulder, sort of like a 300 Blackout, honestly, the shape. So I'm using the RCBS case lube on a pad, and then I'm taking a little bit of alcohol and cleaning that brass off, and we're good. Obviously you want to inspect these cartridges. It's not a super high pressure cartridge, but I want to inspect the necks. These brass are just once fired from actually probably a solid 15 years ago when I owned my Marlin. That was a 35 Remington. So, simple full length resize. And then with everything, I'm going to use the case prep station and just hit the primer pockets real quick. And then inside chamfer. Just to give that transition of the neck a nice little clean, consistent ramp for the bullet to seat. Using a pocket primer pocket uniforming tool, and then a RCBS VLD chamfering tool to touch the mouth. Get you a nice transition for the bullets to go into. Primers, we're going to use CCI BR2s. Bench rest primer. Honestly, that's been the easiest thing to find the last year or so. So same price as all the rest. They were good quality primers, obviously. So yeah, this cartridge was touted as to kill anything in North America, and then it went on to Africa for a few sort of famous expeditions. But if you look at the advertisement from the early 1900s when this thing came out, you know, they've got it. Guys encountering bear and wolves and kinds of big game out west. Really kind of a cool advertisement. That for me, as a younger, I was in my mid-20s when I was doing research on this cartridge, it kind of did what it was intended to do at the time, to sort of inspire that that early frontier adventure type of situation. So the other thing that made this cartridge really famous was Frank Hamer, the Texas Ranger, famously used the Remington Model 8 to kill Bonnie and Clyde, or specifically to kill Clyde Barrow in his ambush of them. So I'll insert a couple pictures from that. But so obviously one-time used brass that primed really nice. I like the hand primer just because you get a good feel. So make sure that your trap door is closed. If you've ever dumped $20–$30 worth of argon out on your desk, you know how much that hurts. So we're going to use Hodgin Hornady Lever Revolution powder. So in this particular, on the package, it's saying 41.4 grains with a 200 grain Hornady FTX, which is the flex tip for a lever gun. We're not using it in a tube magazine, so we don't have to worry about that, but what we are using here is Hornady's 200 grain round nose interlocks. Good consistent hunting bullet, and that's all we're really trying to do, is achieve a good consistent hunting load that's going to cycle out of this old gun. So 35 Remington in the Hornady book, it's saying that Lever Revolution has a max charge of 42.7 grains at 2100 feet per second. I'm not really looking for maxing this out. It's an old gun. I would prefer to keep a little bit lighter, so we're looking about 2000 feet per second. It's kind of a shorter barrel. It's saying 39.5 grains for 2000 feet per second, and then 41.1 grains for 2050. So I think we're gonna do 40.5 grains, and then total overall length of 2.520. Okay, so so 40.5. We're just going to do a quick 10. Not sure what my kid's doing upstairs, but it sounds like he's trying to tackle an elephant. So 40.5 grains. I found this stuff really actually measures really nice out of the Chargemaster. Some of them don't. A good thing I didn't try to send that home too hard. I forgot to change my die. This should work better. Okay, so 40.5 grains of Lever Revolution, 200 grain round nose. So this is a flat base. You gotta careful, sort of careful. When it goes in, but chamfering that mouth helps with that, especially at the flat bases. It helps it get started nice. 20.518, so just a bit. bit long. Short, I should say. It's alright, we're within a thou and a half or so. So yeah, kind of a cool cartridge, kind of a cool gun. You know, when I was doing research on the .35 Remington, and I found out that John Browning designed it, and he had designed it with this rifle in mind, and it just sort of caught my curiosity, and it took me a while to find one, but I'm very happy with the one that I found, and my overall goal with it is going to be to shoot a deer, hopefully this year, and then I'd like to try to get a black bear in the next couple of years. Right now we're just starting to get set up on the property I hunt. The property owner is going to get a tag for next year. I have enough points I can get a tag. Hopefully the year after get a tag. Not as easy to tweezer out 1/10 of a grain of this little tiny powder as it is with the extruded powder. So yeah, if I can get the opportunity to take a black bear with this, that would be sort of my ultimate goal with the rifle. But I bought it as an heirloom, as a part of the collection, to neat part of history between the law enforcement side and the hunting side. I think it was very, almost more popular on the law enforcement side at the time. So pretty straightforward loading here. Almost done with these 10. I will tell you, this is quite the cartridge though, as far as packs a wallop. You shoot a 5-6 times, couple groups, whatever you're doing, man, you're gonna feel it the next day. Even with the semi-auto, but a lot of rifles, semi-automatic takes away from some of the recoil. In this case, this one, if you look at the action of this, I'll try to get a slow-mo while we're shooting, but it's a long recoil gas system, so the barrel and the bolt carrier slide back after firing. The barrel comes forward, the bolt is held delayed slightly. As the bolt pulls away from the bolt carrier, which is holding the spent case, the case and the bolt are stationary. The bolt slides forward, the case flies up, and then the bolt slides forward and picks up the next round. So it's a very interesting but robust system. And once again, John Moses Browning, one of the true geniuses of the industrial age, he came up with some wild actions. So last one here, 40.5 grains of revolution. Hopefully we'll get right around that 2,000 foot per second mark. Alright, there you go. So before we're done, we're going to see what this thing will do on steel. That's just 100 yards. Alright, so back from the range. And I guess I don't know what to expect here. You know, when you're used to reloading for a precision rifle, if the bullets aren't all touching or one ragged hole, you kind of think the gun's broken, you know what I mean? So go from that to what I would consider fairly poor open sights on a, you know, pushing 90-year-old gun here. What is the expectation, right? So like I said, we're just looking for a consistent load. And you know what? I really think a big part of target shooting when it comes to shooting groups or looking for accuracy out of a particular rifle or firearm for that matter, you have to take into consideration your sight picture and how you're able to see that sight picture at distance. So obviously, you know, with a precision rifle, I'm using the tiniest little dots. You know, here's a good example out of the 30-06. Oh, I'm sorry, 6.5 Creedmoor, where, you know, we're using the smallest point of impact, point to aim point, as possible to get the most consistent hold. Well, this target is going to do you absolutely no good at 100 yards. This is my favorite target. It's a craft target from Rifle Craft. I think that's one of the best zeroing targets there is. Okay, that's great when you're looking through a tangent theta 5 to 25. Doesn't really work too good when you're looking through a you know, a sight like this, open sights like this. So please consider that, and eventually do a video about that on the different sight pictures. You know, that I use 3-inch stick-on square targets. They're shooting C's I get off Amazon. They work awesome at 50 yards for red dots, because that red dot, when you look through the target at that red dot, it keys in absolutely perfectly, and it's amazing how good a groups I can shoot with a 10.5-inch 300 blackout at 50 yards because I have a perfect aiming point that's coordinated with that sight picture, right? So here I was playing with sight picture a little bit, different targets, and you'll find I use targets printed off the internet, free targets. Google free target PDF, and you can find a million targets. Some of these Michigan DNR, Crooked Bend, I don't know, crookedbend.com. So like just Google, you know, free target PDF, and then I print them out. But having that variety, you can kind of play with that when you look at a distance. I shot these at 100 yards. You look at it at a distance and say, okay, well, you know, this I can actually see at 100 yards. Well, that's a really big target. Well, guess what? Through these sights, this target's barely visible for me, and I have pretty good eyes. So this is our 10 rounds that we built. Got 4 rounds here. You know, again, you're looking through a sight picture that's very difficult, so I'm not going to read into this too much if this group's a little smaller than that group. To me, this is a huge deal of this is me. And the elevation difference is how much you've got that front bead sight, where that's associated with the notch in the rear sight. I don't know exactly. I really should do this again and go to 50 yards and try the same target and a couple different ones. I thought this one would show up good, about the same size, and I had a little bit of coloration. And basically you couldn't really see this differentiation at all. But there again, we're getting very consistent. You know, my elevation's basically perfect on this, and I got a little bit of left to right. But that's a 2.5-inch group, and then, you know, like I said, not reading too much into, well, that's a 3.5, 4-inch group at 100 yards. That's garbage. Well, guess what? I think this is more me than anything. I think this would do just fine. So, point me in for a deer hunting round. I'm not going to shoot a deer at over 100 yards with this. No way. Velocity was 19. Sorry, I should have wrote this down. That's not it. $19.74. So $19.74. Looking for 2,000. I'm happy with that load. No pressure signs to speak of. Like I said, it shot pretty well. I think I'll redo this test at 50 yards and just see what it looks like there. But I'm happy with this. Again, I was just looking for a good quality ammunition that cycles properly, has the speed that I'm looking for. 200 grains going 2,000 feet per second on a deer with that sort of frontal diameter is going to do the trick. So, all right, like I said, maybe there'll be another video at 50 yards. Hopefully the next video on this is maybe from a deer stand. So, thanks for watching. If you want more 35 Remington content, let me know. I know there's not a whole lot out there. Kind of fun shooting these old guns. So, thank you.